Sorry. Um, so I'm Angie Katie, and so I've seen a bunch of you guys like before. I actually work here at Dakota House as a community health worker, violence prevention specialist. Um, and so we had a really great conversation in the last session, and so this is just kind of gonna pick up, I think, like off of that. So what I'm gonna do is let our guests introduce themselves. We're just gonna be talking about like some strategies for community-based solutions and just, you know, prevention versus harm reduction conversation there. So I guess what we first want to do is just, I want to give you guys just like take 10 minutes or so, however long you want to, just to kind of introduce yourself. I know lots of people might know you, but just
You said how long?
as long as you want. I'm the worst person. I never like stop, you know. Okay. It'll be Abdullah that tells us it's too long.
All right, so my name is Will. Will Baxter. Here representing Buncombe County. I've been involved with community violence for all my life, really, but officially in this role for the last 3 years as the Community Safety and Violence Prevention Coordinator for the city of Asheville and the greater Buncombe County area. You know, I got involved in this work after my nephew was murdered, March of 2021. And, you know, you don't really understand the impact of losing someone to violence until it hits your front doorstep. And so there were a lot of things that shifted for me on a personal level, and where I just really had a desire to see other people in my community, and really any community that I can touch, I'm willing to, whether it's my responsible area or not, because I'm just really tired of seeing how violence impacts our communities. I've been very blessed in Buncombe County with an awesome team of community-based organizations. Shout out to Abdullah for his brilliance in training us in the violence prevention model. And we have really been able to expand, you know, the work that they're doing here in the Cape Fear region into Buncombe County. You know, and so that's my stance.
Cool, awesome, thank you. So you want to go next?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Chief Lavelle Pierce Moore, also Chief Eagle Out, and I'm a principal chief for the Screwray, Wilcon, Cape Fear Indians. You probably see the signs out on Dawson Street if they haven't taken them down yet. Those are our folks. We have a relative that usually put them up. As soon as they take them down, they'll put them right back up. Trying to keep it on everybody's brain that we're still here. And, you know, part of our history here is we've always been a mixed people. And a lot of us left New Hanover County and went further inland because of all the violence and things that was happening here, which our relative, Chris Everett, so eloquently portrayed in Wilmington on Fire, 1898. So there is a lot of history. Freeman Beach, Carolina Beach used to be all family. It has a history. Mount Misery, just across the bridge, Mount Misery Road has a history. Point Peter, which used to be called Negro Road, which was called Niggerhead Road, has a history. So there's a deep history here with indigenous people and folks who were brought here, and everyone blended and become who we are today. You know, that's going to be Indigenous American, African American, and European American. And when we talk about European American, I feel like I have to explain that when I say European, I'm not just talking about Caucasian or pale-skinned Europeans, because there were people over there that looked like us as well. And a lot of them were shipped out. If you look at a movie called Outlander, they're not showing the spectrum of color in there, but the story is solid, showing the people that were shipped from Ireland and Scotland and brought over here to Wilmington. You know, so the short story is a lot of them were fighting against oppression too. So a lot of them, a lot of us leaving out of Wilmington, going across the bridge into the swamp, we form maroon communities. We actually had a guy here called the Swamp General, showing that we were very tactical, we were very organized and planned in everything that we was doing for him to call himself that. As a matter of fact, in the Great Dismal Swamp, in the northern part of the state, there was also a Swamp General, showing that there was an organization between the northern part and the southern part of the state in the maroon communities that formed out in the swamps. So going back to 1898, when I walk around Wilmington, knowing what this city used to be and looking at it now, and certain places I work, I do private security. I went to school in law enforcement. My background is in martial arts and health and fitness, sports nutrition, but I do private security now. I have trained with law enforcement. I've trained law enforcement in combat and stuff up in Charlotte. And just looking around at where we are from where we were, I have to relate that to everything that took place in 1898. And the reason why I brought out some of the places I work with some of the families. You know, I'm around some of the families that were involved in the destruction of Wilmington. So that old money, those folks are still here. You don't see them out. You don't always see them out in the public. You don't always. You're not always. You don't know who you're next to, basically. But those families are here. They're very active in politics. The names are on the bridges, on parks, on streets, and everywhere. And their money and their influence, from my perspective and what I see, is still a cloud over this city. Because when I ride around and I see the amount of homelessness and the violence, I mean, just a few days ago, I'm hearing about this young lady. We thought it was a child because it was a small person who they found over here somewhere off of Martin Luther King, wrapped up in a sheet, who was murdered. So I think a lot of that is because it was done by design. How better to control a people than to get them to control their food, basically giving you the sad standard American diet, which is sad, eating processed foods, junk foods, all these sugars, feeding these parasites and everything that controls us and make us do the things that we don't want to do. You think you want sugar? That's the parasite that's telling you to eat those things, that's keeping you on that borderline of becoming diabetic. You know? The drugs, the alcohol, and then the creating low income and creating the environment for violence. Because people are going to feed their kids. People are going to eat. At the end of the day, if somebody sees you with something and you are the barrier between them and starving, they're going to try to take what you have. So so programs need to be created to give people these opportunities. People need to understand self-awareness. Spirituality needs to be brought back. And I'm not talking about churchality, you know, which I have nothing against people who do that, who practice Christianity, Islam, or any other religion. Malcolm said, if it makes you a better person, it's all right with me. And that's the way I feel. If it makes you a better person, boom, you're all right with me. At the same time, intellectual honesty, being honest, being able to accept history is a part of your growth. Christianity was introduced into the populations here for a specific reason, to control. It's been a tool of control and dominance since the Pope put out the decree of the doctrine of discovery. So what I do is, one of the things I like to do, you know, also with a background in mediation, is I like to talk to folks and try to de-escalate, keep people, show them different ways of dealing with the stressors that we have to deal with. Life is life, and as they say. It's not going to stop, you know, and we have to be able to transmute this energy and turn these stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Understand the condition, and not be a victim to it. You know, be willing to get out there and do the work. It's, you know, getting out of the hole and turning that stumbling block into a stepping stone. It's not as easy as saying, I'm going to do it. It takes action. It takes work. You have to think the thought, put that thought into action. That action becomes current, you know, movement, and then you're able to manifest whatever you're trying to set out to do. Usually, when you're able to team up and form a collective, that collective energy, you can get a lot of things done. That's the part that they destroyed. That collective energy that we had here when we were fighting oppression, when we was fighting systemic oppression, when we was fighting against these colonists, when we was fighting against the white supremacists, when we were fighting against even some of our own folks who were trying to sell us out. Now we're fighting each other. So how do we turn that, me looking at you as the enemy, to shifting that? There was a movie, Roddy Piper. He's a wrestler. He was able to put those glasses on. He was able to see. He was able to see the enemy. That's what we need. That's what we need to be able to do. There's an enemy here. There's an enemy. There's a cloud over this city. There's a cloud over this country. But let's focus here. We need to be able to put those glasses on and see that you're not my enemy. And refocus that energy and go out and do what we're supposed to do. Cool. I'll pass that torch.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I think one of the cool things is that because you guys are from different but the same backgrounds too, so you bring like perspective from even outside of Wilmington, and that's important too. But Lewis, I definitely want to give you, because if you come to Dakota House, like you know Lewis, like you see all like him around all the time, and so I wanted to make sure that you got to like introduce yourself and just kind of give your take on picking up on some of the things that these guys said as well.
So easy to forget with so much alike is different.
Yes, for sure, definitely.
My name is Lewis. My name is Lewis Brown, aka Salim. I came to Wilmington in 2018 after serving 25 years in North Carolina Department of Corrections. Got locked up in 92, got out 2018, came, eventually made it here to Dakota House, got trained as one of the first 10 who were trained under the CPRV. It's code of 10. Basically, I want to touch on some things because, you know, I end up going off to the side. So basically in the process of us sitting down, Dakota House members, volunteers sitting down, coming up with what we're going to do for this fifth year summit, basically what I wanted to say was what I'm focused on is pathways to reentry. So one of the things I want to ask the question in general, what is the most, because we're speaking about community here. So what is the most important thing in community?
Communication.
Relationships, communication, trust. So all of us agree with unity.
Yeah.
So you see we highlighted community, we highlighted that unity piece. So we're talking about giving access to underserved communities, underserved people in the communities, reaching out to them. That's one of the things about reentry. Once individuals are taken out of the community, out of society, lose the connection. So it's a term that I came across that I want to share with everybody. And it's a medical term, but it also relates to individuals. And it's called late onset failure. So late onset failure in formerly incarcerated individuals refers to difficulties experienced years after release from prison, such as mental health issues, substance abuse relapse, difficulty reintegrating into society, often due to lingering effects of incarceration and social and societal barriers. One of the things Abdullah say during the training is that prison itself is the most violent place in our civilized society. This I have definitely, so anybody that's incarcerated have witnessed it. It's a bad thing when it becomes a norm for people to go in there, and feel they have a right to overpower and do other people the way they do it. But just going in there and facing that kind of trauma, taken away from your community, going in there, facing that kind of trauma, and coming back out after a long period of time, it has definite effects on a person's mental disposition coming out. Like I said, I didn't do straight time from 92 to 2018. I did different sentences. I got locked up 92, ended up getting out 99. The longest bid I did at one time was like 7 years, but I did like 1 7-year sentence, 2 6-year sentences. Being in and out, mental trauma of being in and out, it had its effects on my family, my relationships, my community. Finally, and matter of fact, from 2001 to 2003, I met an individual while I was incarcerated named Dennis Gaddy. He started a program called Community Success Initiative out of Raleigh. So from 2001 to 2003, while we were incarcerated, we worked together to establish that program. That program has been ongoing for over 20 years now. He is the co-founder of the Second Chance Initiative. So a lot of people are familiar with saying Second Chance Initiative. Dennis Gaddy is the co-founder of that. He came back. Both of us were released in 2003. I had more issues to deal with than he did. He came on and kept on pursuing the program. I ended up leaving the state, which is one of the reasons I ended up going back to prison for absconding. But I went back in 2017. We reconnected because he brought the program back into the prison system. We reconnected. He let me know if I got out, I'd be able to come back to Raleigh and work under that program. Shortly thereafter, I thought about it. I was over this man's shoulder every day. I knew exactly everything he did to get this program started. So when I got out in 2018 here, I went to Miller Mott over Market Street. I earned my associate's degree in business administration. I moved on to get my bachelor's degree in business administration, and I'm currently working on my master's degree in social work. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to establish my own. I was just going to do a straightforward thing, just get out and start my own organization, getting connected here with Scuttle House, seeing what the nonprofits go through, for-profits, and individuals and entities in this community. I said I'm gonna need a lot more than just getting out and just feeling that I'm gonna just get this underway. Made a lot of powerful connections from Buncombe County to Boston, Massachusetts, to Tennessee. We've been around the country. We've been following over Abdullah's shoulders now. Been around the country, here, establishing relationships. It's been a wonderful journey. We continue to do this work with very little resources. Only the most powerful resources we have are other individuals. We got lowercase leaders. We got Gray Raver Media. We got Hope helping others perceive effectively. We got Shion White Owl. We got some powerful members in our circle, and it's continuing to expand because of programs like this and because of individuals like you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. You guys talked a little bit about like generational curses and that kind of thing. Like I know that I and lots of people in the room like work with our youth a lot of times, and so even sometimes some of them going into the prison system, even if it's not for that long, like like a year, 2, maybe sometimes less than that, and then coming back into society, having to like adjust based on what's happened while they've been gone, or just the fact that that's what they know. Sometimes like their family members have experienced something like that, and so they kind of felt like that was like their predestiny, I guess, to end up in that situation. A lot of the youth that I work with, little similar stories to yours, where they've watched friends die and things like that. So I guess like I'm interested to know like what is it like, because you guys do have an experience that I don't have, and so like what is helpful in those situations to try and like either support them after re-entry into the community, or even like from a prevention standpoint before that?
Well, I would say I think we're blessed to have a few organizations in Buncombe County that deal with people with reentry. Operation Gateway, Mr. Philip Cooper does an amazing job. Change Agent Cooper does an amazing job with connecting with people prior to them getting out, lining them up to work with a case manager that is there the day that they get out, and they walk them through all of the necessary steps that they are going to need in order to have a better transition back into society. But with anything else, it's just like anything else, it's a choice. You know, we can lay out a pathway for you, but it's up to you whether you want to follow it or not. I will say that Philip has some guys, he himself was just as involved, and he has some guys on his staff that understand this pathway. And so you can see the passion that they have in coming alongside of these people that are re-entering the society. And, you know, like I said, they just do a really, really good job with making sure that they're connecting the dots, not only with just re-entry stuff, but also utilizing other resources that may be available to these people, such as job training, housing, license restoration, transportation to and from meeting with whether it's probation officers or, you know, anything like that. So.
Yeah. So, did you guys want to like add? I know you said something that really resonated with me when you're talking about like old Wilmington. I'm a native of Wilmington, and so I do hear even from my kids sometimes like that there is like the old connections, the old power, the old money. And so that kind of sets the stage, I guess, a little bit for them to feel like a little bit hopeless sometimes in breaking that whole dynamic. And so I just like, I'm always like interested to hear from you guys with that kind of experience. Like any thoughts that you have, especially like with our youth, because I'm sure that you guys are interact with them as well. So I want to like learn and have everyone learn from that perspective as well.
Well, I won't be as long-winded on this one. First, I want to thank CFCHE House and Abdullah and all the staff for CFCHE House. You guys always been like family. That's the way I feel anyway. And the conversation Abdullah and I had last night, it was all about family. And I think, you know, transferring that into your question with reentry. Yeah, I have quite a few family members who have done time. You know, I have family members who, on both sides, law enforcement and those who have been incarcerated. This country is an easy place to go to jail and go to prison. It's very easy. It's not called the prison industrial complex for nothing. You know, it's very easy. There's laws on the books now you wouldn't believe that's still there. Beating your wife is one of them. As long as you do it on the steps of the courthouse. Yeah. Family is important. Kids are going to find family somewhere, and sometimes they find it in the wrong places. Places like CFCHE House offers an option and a different opportunity for a different type of family, a family that actually has gateways to programs and opportunities to have these kids being able to look outside the hood and see something, you know, look past their nose and have some kind of vision. It's you know, growing up in the projects or low income, one parent working or two, struggling, just, you know, barely making it. Two incomes and barely making it. It's rough. It's rough, and the control and the elitists and those in power today, you know, it's by design. So from CFCHE House and from an indigenous perspective, what I've noticed, what we have, one of the things we have in common is family. From an indigenous perspective, you know, everybody's an uncle, everybody's an aunt. You know, auntie, uncle, so forth. I mean, even some nations are called little brother, you know, my child. The Wokan, where the Wakama come, you know, that's a whole different story, but those two names are related. in the Iroquois Confederacy, which is the Mohawk, the Onondaga, Oneida, Seneca, you know, those 5 nations, now including the Tuscarora, all of them call each other either little brother, big brother, my child. You know, we have those names because family is the core of everything. If we can show these youngsters who are influenced by hip hop from the negative side, because who's controlling that? You know, those executives that Michael Jackson and Prince and a few others who spoke against, those are the folks who are controlling the music industry, and they're going to make you put out what they want. Low vibrational music that keeps you in a loop, in a state of confusion and chaos. And that's what you want to put out. So if we're able to show them, hey, you have family here, you know, put your hands in the dirt and your feet in the dirt. They call that earthing now. Yeah, that was, you know, herbology. Back in the days, they said, oh, witch doctor. You know, now you can go and get certificates and diplomas in. Earthing, that's a new name for something that people have always been doing. You know, gardening and just being out in nature. There's so much that we have that's healing, that's ceremonial, you know, from the families that we can bring these kids back. And it's not easy to bring them back. Right. It's not easy. Absolutely. You know, all we can do is let them know that, hey, you have family here. It's up. You got to take a step forward. We take 3 steps towards you. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of other different things, but you know, just my 2 cents. Just providing that family that opportunity for these kids, and even people who are getting out and re-entering back into society, an opportunity to go out here. Hey, you can go to class and you can learn. You can get this trade. If you didn't get it while you was incarcerated, hey, here's something that you can do. We can you can do this, and you know, you don't have to go out here and look over your shoulder. You know, getting re-entered back into the institution. So I'm babbling at this point.
No, you're not. That's important. I think you touched on something really important with the family component and just connection piece, because I know a lot of the kids that I work with, exactly what you said is true. Like if they don't have a family unit, they're gonna find that family connection somewhere else, and even if that's a negative connection, it's still like a connection. And so I know, you know, one of the things that like Abdullah did with the Timbuktu program with our youth and stuff is bringing kids that maybe didn't have that opportunity to connect with even like a father figure or a positive male role model, and just bringing them in and teaching them different things which you can't teach without that connection piece. And so I think that's one of the things that makes that successful. I know, Lewis, you have been a part of that. Like I've had kids that I refer to the program, like say, I texted Kevin just the other day, was like, my own son was like, hey, I just like rewired like the doorbell cam, and you can thank Kevin for that, you know? So I think like that is a huge piece of prevention, if you want to call it that, through like connection. So, and I definitely want to open up to you guys to ask questions too, because these are the.
Now, I have a question regarding like mental health. So a lot of the conversation have been individuals, thankfully, you know, you guys have experience and exposure to reentry and helping our community members, you know, find their footing, find their family, get back on like a healthy, progressive life. But what advice or what approach do you use to individuals who may not have committed crimes so severe that would incarcerate them for a significant amount of time, but like, let's say they got a DUI, or let's say they got domestic violence, and not intimate partner violence, let's say like, okay, full of transparency, 16, I was not in a very healthy space. I was drinking, doing like prescription pills for a while, and I got an altercation with my mom, and my sister called the cops on me, and I was thrown in jail for 4 days. And then when I was released from jail, I literally got left from the jail cell, I got put in the back of a car, and I was driven to Durham and started running life with my father, who I had no relationship with. Obviously, that did not turn out well. It was horrible. I ended up getting put out at Christmas, and my mom found a lady that lived in Durham, and she paid for rent for me to stay in the place like a graduate with my friends, so I didn't have to move again. That was a lot of my own mental health I was struggling with. I had some sexual assault, wasn't really talking about it and stuff. But how do you talk to and approach children who, again, aren't so far gone that they've committed like felonious crimes that have locked them up, but they're teetering on that line. Like they're obviously asking for help. That was a cry for help, and I'm blessed I was put in an opportunity where I was able to receive help after the fact. But like I was 16, I caught my first domestic charge, and that's not something, you know, you can talk to a lot of your friends about, especially I got moved to Durham. The school I got put in was a very privileged school. My friends, they ain't know shit about that. You know, they got 2-parent households and a cul-de-sac, you know, so they didn't experience or know things of that nature. So I had to find and seek help, and, you know, through therapy and through community, that I found and built myself. Like I found my own family, I found my own network, and I was able to advocate and pull myself out of it. But how do you approach people like that where they're on the line? They are stable and redeemable, but they might not have support structures. They might be put into a situation or a community where they have to restart, and that's just as disassociating as if they were left in the situation that they got snatched out of. Like how can we as a community like step in then? Because there's a lot of mental health that's associated with that. Like, yes, I was a bad mental state, but also now I feel like shit. Like I too come from a blended family. I have family members that have been incarcerated. My dad was a cop. My mom was like Sandy Sosen. You know, I've got ancestral and indigenous partners, like family members. Like I felt like I let my family down. Like, I felt like I was a disappointment. I felt like I should have, could have done better. And after healing, and now I'm as an adult, I'm able to reflect back, like, I couldn't do better because I didn't know better because I was broken and hurt, and I needed help to get through that. But the mental stigma that I put on myself, that right there was probably worse than the fucking jail sentence and then the thereby repercussions I got from that. Like, just the battle that I beat myself out. Like, how can we deal with that level of mental health? Not just what the problem that caused it, but the mental health that they live with because they think they're a screw up. They think they ruin like their name or their family. You know, like that stigma weighed heavier on me than the fact I got arrested. Like I got arrested, I dealt with that. But like I let my family down. Like I let my dad. My dad is the one who had to get me arrested. Like that was really.
What I would say is one of the things that Will said about brother that's doing the work. He's being inside the system and he's meeting people while they're in the system and helping them out. So, because if there's no connection between the society, the community, and the system within, then it's not going to work. And then you got a society that's already broken up anyhow. If somebody that's already broken up coming to a broken society is not going to help. One of the main pieces is that building a bridge between having individuals going in, working with individuals while they're in there. Like you said, meeting people that is on the verge of getting out. Everybody in there doesn't have life sentences. Some people have some people we call have numbers, life sentence, and some people have it's alphabets. So in North Carolina, they got class A, B, C, life. But so it's actually dealing with all of them. Because everybody's going to be affected by everybody in the system. And reentry is not an event, it's a process. So we got to work toward that process and help individuals as they're coming out. But that's one of the things. And then the communities and the ones that are supposed to be supporting community organizations, recognizing that and funding those programs that's doing that, because right now Abdullah is going into the system. He's right here at Wilmington Correctional Center, also known as 025, going in there multiple times a week, working with individuals that's on the process of transitioning out. Just like you said with Timbuktu, Timbuktu not only got a part where they're working with youth, but he's also working with adults. So he's trying to, I can't list all the things Abdullah is doing right now, but trying to make that happen when individuals transition out, have a relationship with the community, being able, because as we always emphasize, these doors to Dakota House is always open. So having individuals come here, make those connections, that's how I came here. So letting people know, just don't get out expecting you're going to be making $50,000 a day. Start building, doing some volunteer work, coming out, making those connections, because everybody that you meet, even if they are offering you large sums of money, they might not be right for you. It's coming out, meeting people that's right for you, having building those kind of relationships, and then moving forward from there.
I have a question. It's going to connect to her question. So when we're trying to, I think, articulate words and actions, and I think the reason why I think people were selected and certain subject matters were selected, and you guys were selected to sit in the panel that you guys are on, is that in order for community, I think you need to work over the family, right, village, right, to be what it's designed to be, right? It's designed to be a space. In Arabic language, the word ummah literally means like a nation or a society. It's the exact word that also means ummi, mama, right? It's the exact word that also means the womb of mother, right? And what happens biochemically with the mother, all mothers, right? In our tradition, we believe that mothers are like equal to, right, even maybe more significant than the warriors on the battlefield, right? Because you can't exist as a society unless that woman is willing to sacrifice to give birth to a child, which literally is a life-threatening reality, right? In Islamic tradition, you get the same honors and the same respect and the same notoriety as being on the battlefield as you are in giving birth to a child, right? So bringing it back to this notion of like the community, but whatever happens inside the womb of a mother, right, or whatever happens to a mother impacts the child that's in the womb of a mother. So to the degree that that woman or that mother is healthy, that child is healthy. So let's flip that. To the degree that a community is healthy, then the actual human beings that's being raised inside the community is healthy. And outside of the system, which we know, because there's been this kind of systematic philosophy of not prioritizing community, right? They prioritize systems and resources, right, and institutions, right, and taking away from the focus on the natural medicine of human connection and human relationship. The results of some of those actions have broken up the fabric of community relationships, right? Because scarcity of resources has caused people to be pitted against each other. People self-medicating has caused them to behave in ways that's actually broken, this is the key word I want to come to, trust in the community, right? When you lack trust in the community, then you lack the ability to actually comfort someone, right? And to actually nourish someone, because they're not trying to be nourished by something that they don't trust, right? They're not trying to be nourished by something that doesn't offer the potential, right, to be actually treated right. As leaders in the community and leaders in the work that you do, as it relates to the word trust and being an actual trusting option for people no matter what their crisis is. As Sister Lily said, someone that encounters a mediocre interaction with law enforcement, but it leaves a ripple effect in their life, right? Some people that goes into systems and they're there for a lifetime, like literally a lifetime, right? You know what I'm saying, 20, 30 years, and then they have to come home. Some may go on for a decade or so, and then they have to come home. After being in one of the most violent places in America, right? One of the most, toxic places in America. And they return back to this environment. Children who are being, because teachers are maybe overwhelmed and administration may be overwhelmed, they're disregarding their needs, right? They're policing them instead of educating them. Mental health professionals, because they're overwhelmed and not enough resources, they're going towards medication more so than actual treatment. There's all these different levels of engagements. Parents are overwhelmed, right? So when it comes to a child needing what they need from their parent, because what the parent is dealing with, that trust between, not all the time, that trust between that child and that parent is broken. In which ways can building trust as leaders in our community, right? Which means a lack of judgment or managed judgment, because you have to judge, right? You just have to manage how you judge, right? Not condemn. In which ways can the cultivation of strong women, strong men, secure women, secure men that can embrace and hold space for people that are in need, right, when they're in times of crisis? Which roles can trust and building integrity in us, right? And what roles can that play in beginning to shift the fabric of culture that is required for community to play the role that it's playing? Right? We're talking about community-based, right, solutions. And I've heard all you guys say that the real solution is really in the people. But the barrier in the people is the broken trust. So in which ways can we talk a little bit about the importance and the significance of us doing our own self-work to make sure that we begin to be persistent in trying to be, because no one's perfect, and trying to be a representation of, yes, you can come, and there is trusting adults, there are trusting men, trusting women that's willing to support you and hold space for you. I'm I may not be able to help you in everything, right? But I can get you maybe to somebody that can help you. And if you're not ready to be helped in this moment, I'm not going to give up, right? I'm going to remain present. And then when you come back and you're ready, I'm going to connect you. In what ways can that level of inner work amongst us as men and women, right? What role can it play in making sure that we as a community, as a village, is holding space for the trauma, is holding space for the crisis? And what roles can that play in helping us be able to rebuild that community, family, right, environment that's needed? And I'm pretty sure each one of you guys can speak a little bit to that, because it's really important. And it actually really begins with that inner work, right? But then also for the purpose of having that inner work to say, I need to work on myself, right? Because I know that this is something that's lacking. And if I work on myself and I'm more present, then I represent that type of pillar, that consistent pillar that can actually get people what they need, even when they can't get the resources, right? They still get a caring, loving, right, person with integrity that they can count on is already there, always there, or going to be there. Can y'all speak to that a little bit as far as the shifting of culture and propping up men and women that stands on integrity and stands on right levels of actual genuine concern, and what roles can it play in actually creating an environment and community to be able to heal and support people?
Well, I think for me, the first, when I'm talking about trust, is allowing myself to be vulnerable enough with the individual to be transparent.
Yeah.
Meeting them where they are. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes in my own life. Let me show you a different way. Because of my experiences, we talk about lived experience all the time. This is where that comes to play. Because instead of me judging you, I'm going to be vulnerable enough to tell you that, look, man, I've screwed up too. But I had someone that poured into me in order for me to have a desire to change. And now the same way someone was willing to pour into me, I'm willing to do the same thing with you. And now I can begin, because I'm willing to be transparent, I can begin to develop a level of trust with the individual. I'll give you a prime example. I received a phone call a few weeks ago to deal with a young man that's 15 years old, that's facing some pretty significant charges. Don't want to listen to mama, don't want to listen to grandmama. Other community-based organizations are not really willing to work with him because of the violent threat that he brings into these organizations. And so I find myself in front of this young man. And, you know, the thing that I told him is after I told him about myself, I told him my expectations from him, what my expectations were. And I said, in order for you to not go through what you're about to go through, there's some immediate changes that have to be made. And I'm going to lay some things out for you. And as long as you're willing to do what I'm asking you, I'm willing to walk through this with you and support you. At first, I didn't know if mom and grandma was buying it until I got a phone call on Wednesday. Yes, we're going to do everything that you said because this is what my son needs. And so not only is the kid now trusting, so is mom and grandma. And so what broke down that barrier was really just me sitting down and having a conversation with the kid and saying, look, it ain't nobody walking this earth perfect. All of us have made mistakes. All of us will make mistakes. But I think giving him the reassurance that I was willing to walk through it with him, not only myself, Brother Castro from Operation Gateway, me and him are partnering to help this kid. You know, because we really don't want to see him get thrown to the wolves as getting charged as an adult. You know, so I think when we're building these relationships in the community, if you're not willing to be transparent and you know, really tell people who you really are, a lot of people are not going to trust you. I had a young man the first year I was doing this work say to me, I don't want to know how much you know until I know how much you care. And that has stuck with me when I'm dealing with people. Like the first thing I lead with is not, this is what I do, this is my job, this is this, this is that. No, I want to know about you. You know, let's get on that level. Let's meet each other where we really are right now, and let's have a real conversation. So.
To add a little piece of that, I'm gonna come from a martial arts perspective, and Before I say that, I just want to say to you, 10 more of you here, Wilmington couldn't handle it. All right. Yeah. So I mean, you're awesome. You're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. From a martial arts perspective, trust. We had a school in Charlotte called Female Fighters. During our normal operating time, it was strictly women. And the majority of these women came from backgrounds of domestic violence or something, assault or something like that. So entering into a martial arts school with 2 male instructors was already a challenge for them. So that was the first challenge. Once they met us and, you know, very sensitive, very hesitantly start working with us, eventually we start to develop a trust. But it takes time. I think self-defense, and another good way to frame that is self-awareness, self-defense. That environment is a really good way to build trust, self-defense, self-confidence, and to pretty much tear that old person down that you don't want to be, to grow into the person that you want to be. Personal experience, when I went through my black belt test, you know, they put me on notice. Your test is in 2 months. Put me on notice whether I was ready for it or not. And being that I was already a fitness instructor and stuff like that, I felt like, man, I'm gonna just cruise to this. Yeah. And the school I was in is old school type martial arts. Bare knuckles, no pads, anything, you know, like that. So it was old school. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready for this. I'm gonna cruise through it. You know, I've already been running and doing this and that and the other. And one of the black belts, he's 5th degree, he looked at me and my teacher, he said, you think you have a plan, don't you? I said, yeah, I do. So the day I went in there, the test lasted about 6 or 7 hours. I ran 6 miles barefoot, and then when I got back to the school, I had to go through this 5-hour beatdown. And before getting to the end, you know, I was done, and it was just pure spirit that I was operating off of. It wasn't any plans that I had. It wasn't any muscle or training that I had. All that went out the door because I didn't have everything. I was so gone in that test that I didn't have anything to give. You know, they call it baptism through fire. So in that test, I was introduced to the real me. So all that I built up prior to that was tore down, and I was introduced to the real me. Because I didn't have anything to fall back on except for pure will or spirit. They kept giving me out. You can quit, you can stop if you want. No! My legs, they were cramped up, I couldn't walk, bleeding, and I had to go through 9 3rd, 4th, 5th degree black belts to fight them when I didn't have anything. And they didn't hold back, but I wouldn't stop because it's not in me to stop. You know, I'm getting my butt handed to me, but I wouldn't stop. And they gave me every opportunity to quit. I came out of there a brand new person. I mean, there's a lot of different things we go through in life, whether it's some type of spiritual epiphany, some type of retreat, or martial arts school. You know, to tear down who you thought you were, to be introduced to the real you. The real you, now we can have a real conversation. We can relate. And we can start building. And that takes you back to that family because those other folks in there went through the same thing. So going right back to family. Sokoto House family, whether it's a family with indigenous tribes, whether it's a family that you build in the martial arts school. You know. So I think that's very important. You know, I think that's just a different perspective to get to what you were talking about, building that trust and going out there, you know, a confident person and standing on your own, standing on business, being able to walk the road of independence with some type of hope. I was told hope was not the best word to use, but that's the word I'm gonna use. Basically, knowing that I can do better. I guess that's hope. I guess that's another way of saying hope. Knowing that I can do what you did. You know, you're not better than me. You know, unless I allow you to be. I can do what you did. And again, getting back to family. That's what that family unit helps do.
Yeah. I get that. It sounds like there was just an act of that connection. Brother Lewis was that we're all living, we're lifing right now, and lifing is a test. Lifing is a challenge, right? You know what I'm saying? The world is bringing out that you, right? And when you're inside of a space in life where you've tasted that you have to bring that you to you. I think the same thing the brother was saying. Break down the barriers, like not about what I have professionally, what I have this, what not. I'm gonna bring that side of me that allow me to arrive to you in this moment, because that's usually what people in these communities are going through when they're in crisis. They're going through that test. They're being put to the fire, baptized in the fire, like through real life. Right? It's almost like we're kind of, you know, whether we emerge at the lowest level of black belt or the lowest level of some other type of belt level or whatnot, we've reached a level of actual evolution, and we have to bring that authenticity that, man, listen, we can work up and we can beat down where you at, right? And this is a journey that we're all in together. You know, since I'm gonna hold your hand while you try to figure it out. I've been there as well too. Whatnot. And I think you're saying is that it's that common sense of struggle, that common sense of, you know, authentic, right, realization that is going to rebuild what's needed inside of our community for us to all collectively emerge. Yep. That's great. Thank you. But Lewis.
Yeah, before I say that, I want to give you what I learned, my definition of hope is. I learned the definition of hope means help others proceed effectively.
All right, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's what my definition of hope is. It went over her head, she missed it. She had to catch that one on the other. I said my definition of hope is helping others proceed effectively. So that's what I learned about hope. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So what I'm gonna piggyback off of something both of y'all said though, because he was brother was speaking about meeting a person where they are. So that to me that's one of the main components right there. And a lot of times when you're meeting somebody, both of y'all have a set of expectations. So being who you are and being authentic is very important. Because a lot of people, just like you said, I mean, I don't want to step into a place because I'm not an associate's degree, I'm not a bachelor's degree, I'm not, you know what I'm saying, a certificate in community health work. I am who I am, and I am who I am because of my Creator. That relationship right there, that tie right there, we gotta maintain that. That is the most important component right there. If we step in with that in mind first, we're not judging, we're acknowledging where we got ours, and we're making that connection with that individual. So that's a really important piece when you're speaking with somebody, because most of the time, people with trauma, I like to say all the time, people with trauma come in sort of guarded. So they like, I mean, a real simple example. When I came here, Sister Marvette knew the kind of work I was doing. She kept on pushing me. You know, she needed to meet Vance Williams, you need to come to Scotto House. One day I had the time to come here. So I'm here, I'm helping out. I'm like, okay, Vance got a nice little setup here. So I see Abdullah, and I see a couple other people, and then I see Abdullah coming and going. So he stopped me, he was like, yeah, I've been coming and going all day. And he was like, every time I see you, I'm working. I'm like, yeah, I'm working. He was like, yeah, this is my place. I'm like, oh man, I'm coming here with the expectation though, you know what I'm saying, making an impression with Vance, but you know what I'm saying? So we coming in with preconceived expectations. It doesn't always mean we're gonna, you know what I'm saying, reach that goal. Just coming in and just working and just being yourself, not trying to make some kind of, you know what I'm saying, impression or doing something else, because you never know what situation you're stepping in. That's on both parts. So us, especially with our background and moving from where we are to where we want to be, we got to remember where we was in order to bring that person in.
What's your thoughts on that? Definitely interested in hearing Sissy's thought.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh, look, the first second I just like.
You like being a moderator.
I forgot for a second because I'm just like I'm like trying to suck up all the, all like I'm trying to remember what you guys said. But, no, I mean I think like I said this before, like you know whenever I work a lot with youth, my own son is from a single parent home, and so like this is his family that's been created. Like from a very young age, I was very intentional about trying to, you know, handpick these people that could fulfill like that void, you know, that could like you said, like have like the connection and be like that family outside for him. Like I really challenges me a lot on this, you know, like on your definition of family and that kind of thing. But I mean, I think I agree with everything that you guys said. Like when I work with my kids, like I have the knowledge to navigate policies and these are your rights and go to fight for them and I like you said, like I do. They wouldn't work with me if they didn't think that I cared. That is the number one thing. We can't fake that with kids, you know. But the only thing that I don't have is something you guys have, which is like an inner perspective, like lived experience. I don't have that, you know, and so I'm always like.
So you don't have that?
No, not in the sense of that. Not in the sense of. I mean, it's somewhat, but I can't say what it's like to be in the prison system for once, and then you know, and then have to come back and re-enter into community. And that's the thing. You know what Lily said earlier is so true. Like, I mean, my kids is a game changer, and like that one little incident where they get like a disorderly conduct charge thrown on them for something super insignificant, something like saying you can't check my bag because that's not what the policy says. That means something very different for different groups of kids, you know, like that's my own kid can say that. I said this in the earlier session. He can say you can't check my bag, but some of the kids I work with can't say that. And so that one thing, that one charge, that one time, they're in handcuffs can escalate and just pave that whole pipeline to prison. We talked about that. It sounds a little cliche, but it's true, you know. And so anytime I have the opportunity to learn from people that have a different perspective and a deeper experience, I guess I should say, like than I do, it's always something I appreciate.
So I'm going to share a little bit, and not speak on your behalf, but I'm going to share. I think it's important for all of us when we think about family and think about community. So when I first came home, I come from Southern California, and I grew up in predominantly like African American, Latino community. Like it's like 85% Latino, and you know everything I was around was African American. So when I came home from prison, after being having to be re-educated in prison and learning a lot about history, a lot of history that wasn't shared. So we read books about the African perspective and the indigenous perspective, and it was just like, wow, okay, cool. And I came home, it was easy for me to kind of like step into that space and be comfortable, but you know, it was still a lot of gang violence and literally my life was on the line, so I got blessed by the Most High to actually leave California on an interstate compact transfer. And the place I ended up going to, because there was a professor, and his wife, actually he was a writer, and his wife was a professor, we had connected through a program inside prison where he was, continued to write with me and connect with me, and when I came home, he was just like, you know, at the time my name was Sharuku, changing it later. He was like, man, there's no way in the world, like, how are you gonna survive? How are you gonna figure that out? Like, you refuse to carry guns. I didn't want to go back to prison. I had a problem with the dehumanization, someone being able to tell me anytime they wanted to get butt naked, bend over, squatting, call. I was like, I'm not volunteering to do that again. So I don't care who's shooting, I don't care what they got going on. I'm not carrying guns, I'm not being around gang members, but my families are all the majority of the gang members, and the environment I'm in is gang members, and I had a reputation. Right, so he was like, how do we get you out of here? Right, because the generation I come in, if you're not gang banging or not, if some people care about you, then we're gonna get you just to hurt them, type thing. So I got blessed to leave California. I ended up in Eugene, Oregon. And this all makes sense. I'm taking a moment. Eugene, Oregon. So the rest of the country was actually forcing people to integrate after slavery Oregon decided to actually ban all blacks from coming. So some of the most, high-level white supremacists that had the wealth to do so, they migrated to Oregon. And Oregon became like a stronghold on the West Coast, right, for true white supremacy. Right, the sundown laws probably still exist, but I don't know if they have them in certain parts of remote areas of Oregon. So when I stumbled into actual Eugene, Oregon, like Skinner Butte and all that stuff, it took me like about maybe a month and a half to realize I was somewhere different, right? There's a lot of people with, like white folks with dreadlocks, and they had the Rasta vibe, and you had the Grateful Dead vibe. But that was in Eugene itself. The surrounding areas, I was like, where am I at? Like, you know what I'm saying? You got big old cats with beards and Harleys, and they looking at me like, I got lots. Like, okay, what you doing out of this? I'm like, hold on, where I'm at, right? Southern California, so I immediately, you'd be surprised, went to the library, right? I'm fresh out of prison, so I only know how to navigate the internet. I went to the library and started studying where I was at. And I understood. I'm like, wow, I'm in Oregon. I didn't know nothing about it, right? I didn't know nothing about its history. And what I noticed was it forced me to kind of delve into deeper into the actual socialization of European Americans, right? So not just what we go through, but also what European Americans had to go through in order for them to actually be on board with the project, right? And also to understand the people who drew the buck that project, like how it was treated, right? And the social, intellectual, and even spiritual dynamics of being, and I'm gonna say this, amongst some people considered a traitor, because your ideals are different from what the status quo that they're trying to push. So even today, when I look at, white Americans, like from European Americans, all from Europe, like all from Africa or some other place, unless we're indigenous to these lands, whatnot, we have a root, we come from somewhere, right? When you reach a particular place in your mind and your heart, what you're a part of is no longer what you want to be a part of as a human being. And you take a stance and challenge that. You're in a very precarious scenario because amongst your own, who you've been raised around, who you've been connected to, they're looking at you differently because you think differently and you're trying to achieve a different goal, right? And then when you come into spaces where there's people who've actually experienced the actual the assault of white supremacy, their trauma don't all the way recognize you, don't all the way want to accept you, right? But you're genuinely having an actual mindset and you want to have a agenda. There's some that don't. There's some that's liberal and want to maintain, it's the wolf. Is the wolf and the fox, right? But there's some that's neither the wolf or fox, trying to find a home, trying to find a family, intellectual, spiritual family that's all about humanity, right? When you're in that space, you may not have the same experiences because of white privilege, right? Of certain type of instability. Some people do though. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the most poorest people in America are white, right? At the end of the day, there's more poor white people in America living in rural parts of this country, and they're going through things that you don't want to imagine. Like different levels of actual security. Their situation not worse than ours in general because it's a large number of a small population of people going through stuff, but they're still big. If you did advance beyond that to where you're now in a place, you're like, you know what? I'm not with this SSIT. I'm not going to support it. I'm not endorsing it. I'm going to say something about it, even if I destroy relationships with family members. You got people that don't talk to their daddies, that don't talk to their parents, don't talk to them. They've completely been marginalized because their thoughts are different. Their skin hasn't changed anything, but their ideals are different, right? Their passions are different, right? They too have to have a family. They too have to have an actual community in which they feel like that human beings can work together to thrive. I watched you, and I say this when I ask a question. We're talking about stand-up women and stand-up men, right, with trust, right? I watched Angie be an advocate. I watched her, go through major assaults as well as assault others on Facebook. She's a samurai. She was a samurai. She was Whistle Photo House, right? She's a major advocate. She'll push a button. She'll push back. People may not always agree with her, but she's going to stand on what she believes, right? And people can trust that, whether they agree. Yeah, whether they agree or disagree, right? She's going to stand in the box. She's going to hold her own, right? And young people, maybe. I got you. You got to go to work.
Yeah, I'll see y'all later.
We need your mic, though. Get your mic.
Oh, yeah. I'll be at work, but all the orders, people like, where's this coming from?
Oh, thank you. People for women and our men, similar to when Sister Lily, Sister Brenda, right, and others that surround may not be on the platform, but you're on the platform, so give an example for them to see it, right, and hear it. It's significant for young people and for community members to know that someone whose predominant beliefs is in favor of their cause, right? Because no one agrees on everything, right? Is predominantly in favor of their cause, willing to stand in the box for their cause, take assaults for their cause, their life in the line for their cause, right? Because sometimes that's the level of it is, like even dealing with the sexual piece, right, with the schools, right, other type of advocacy. When they see that that person, woman or man, in this case a woman, is willing to kind of hold the line and consistently actually say that SHIT is wrong, I'm not supporting that. That's a level of trust, right, that is significant inside this age. Everybody's not willing to take that extra piece of sacrifice. Even people of color are not always willing, if you want to use the word color, I don't use it, but I'm using it now for the purposes, to make that sacrifice and say, you know what, I'm willing to actually take the assault to tell you that what you're doing is not okay, and I don't support it in no way whatsoever, right? That's also the type of actual trust that's actually needed, right? You know what I'm saying? From the women as well. Right? You happen to be also a white woman, so you got double dose of representation right here. And there's others like Kevin, right? You know what I'm saying? And Heather, who's around, right? A Rose, right? I'm just learning to meet, and I'm listening to her, and I'm catching her vibe.
Yeah.
Those individuals, right, and it's very important to mention it because when we start talking about family, family is not just, when we talk about community, we're not just talking about, right, historically marginalized population, indigenous, African people, or, you know what I'm saying, Latino people. We're talking about any human being whose heart is covered with righteousness, whose heart is covered with courage and love for people, right? That's the type of family and that's the type of community. And your advocacy is a significant representation of that trust, right? The fact that you do your work, a lot of times you're not paid for your work. Right, and you're actually showing that. So I just want to put that out there because she kind of diverted. I know she diverted to the brothers, but now y'all have, nah, right? You got something, and it's important that others see that what you have is not only significantly valued, but it's 1,000% represented inside the family we're trying to build. That's really going to be able to change our immediate environment, which is the Cape Fear region, and really humanity as a whole. So I just want to put that out there because it's important that we don't let that go by, and you being humble and respectful, like you are necessary.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And I appreciate you guys letting me sit up here with you. Because I was like thinking, I'm like, what I do? Like what are you thinking? Like, how do you know?
You held it down like we imagined you would do.
Look, like, first of all, I'm never the person that's like, okay, time, we can't talk anymore. And second of all, I'm just like taking it all in myself, so I'm not the best moderator. But anyway, I appreciate you guys like letting me share space with you.
So,
Don't sell yourself short.
Thank you guys, man, for sharing. We have one more session up at 5:30.
5.
Oh, 10 minutes, perfect timing. Anything? Any final thoughts for y'all wrap up? I want to last one talking in your session.
I'll say this when we're dealing with community. Don't ever be afraid to let people see the passion that you have for this work. You know, a lot of times we're going into places where we're trying to develop relationships. We don't already have trusted relationships in some places. And your passion for them may be the only thing that gets your foot in the door. That's a pet peeve of mine. I hear a lot of people say that I'm passionate about it. If you don't say you're passionate about the work around me, then your actions better show that you're passionate about it. Because if not, you're going to get checked on it real quick. So I think that has been my biggest headache in doing this violence prevention work, building with community, is seeing people that will get paid to go to a community and do something, but the only reason you're really there is for a paycheck. And if I see it, then I know the community sees it. And whoever comes after them, that's the same thought process they're going to have about the next person. So I think it's very important for us as we go into these communities to build that we must lead with passion, we must lead with love, compassion, efficacy, and that's how we're going to develop the trust that is needed to change the culture.
Awesome. Angie, I just want to say something and to you too, brother. From an indigenous perspective, in the sacred circle, none of us are higher than the other.
Yes.
So we're all equal. We say the Thanksgiving address, that's when we're giving respect to the trees, to the animals, whether they're in the water, whether they're walking 4 legs, and to all the people. This whole race consciousness that we have here is a construct built to divide us and keep us at odds. It builds up these divisive walls, and we lose who we really are. So what we're talking about is reclaiming becoming our authentic self and our personal sovereignty. One of the things that I would like to put out there is I'm going to start helping people and doing some classes. One of the things I'm talking with Brother about helping people reclaim their personal sovereignty. And you have the spiritual sovereignty, and then you have what you probably hear with the Moorish folks and everybody else out there about dealing with the law, common law. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about from the spiritual side. Becoming who you're really meant to be, and that reflection, that energy that you put out there. You'll be surprised at how people receive you, especially when you're out here dealing with the youth. They're gonna spot a fake. Why do you think there's such a barrier between white coats or uniforms talking to people out in the street? Because they seem like they don't relate. You got to be able to relate. I talk to my kids, and I tell them, I say, you got to be able to shift. And if you're out in the street talking, you got to talk the language people understand. If you go to the bank and you're trying to get a loan, you got to talk the language they understand. You have to learn how to do that. And that's not talking right, as people like to say. What is that anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, but it all goes back to family. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Really grateful for you guys taking your time. You drove about 45 minutes out?
Yeah.
And then brother here came down, 5 hours?
Yeah.
5.5.
5.5 hours, man. So we really appreciate you guys, man. Presence, saying you guys are part of the family. That's nothing. I'm saying it in the universe, but y'all know that already. Or whatnot. So it's good. Thank you.
Okay. All right.